Welcome to all of you who are with us today and to those who are joining us remotely. If any of you are visitors, please sign the guest book, which is located in the foyer. There are announcements about our activities in the back of your order of service. Further information is also available online. Please take a moment to silence your cell phone. The Church History Ministry team is presenting today's service in celebration of the art of Lydia Breed, longtime member of this church and a prominent Boston artist. There is a table at the rear of the church where church members are displaying examples of their artwork and other materials about the exhibit of Lydia's art at the Lynn Museum. Our speakers today are Lynn Museum Director Doneeca Thurston and Boston Printmakers Association President Renee Covulucci, who will tell us about Lydia's life as an artist and the exhibit that they are coordinating at the Lynn Museum. And now, let us enter the spirit of worship together.
We join in a common quest for the discovery of life's deeper meaning, for the enduring strength of hope, for the inspiration of joy and laughter, for the mind's illumination by the torch of wisdom, for the hearts warmed by the mysteries of love, for the souls enriched by the winds of the living Spirit. Our lives are a work of art, and we rejoice to share them together. Let us join in singing our opening hymn, Simple Gifts.
Our chalice lighting this morning is from the poetry of Mary Oliver. I want to believe I am looking into the white fire of a great mystery. I want to believe that the imperfections are nothing, that the light is everything, that it is much more than the sum of each flawed blossom rising and falling, and I do. And now, please join us in the unison affirmation that is in your order of service. Love is the doctrine of this church, the quest for truth its sacrament, and service its prayer, to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve human need, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God.
I would now like to share a reflection by John Benson. When we look outside in the springtime, what do we see? We are presented with life in all its variety of color and form. But some people can see beyond the superficial attractions and into the heart of things, catching the essence of what is there, revealing a deeper meaning. This is the job of an artist who, much like the traditional shaman, understands the deeper meaning in things and attempts to use it to bring new vitality to our experience. Lydia Breed was such an artist. She could see the essential facts in the outline of a church building in the landscape, in a piece of driftwood, in a wildflower. The little wildflower garden that she maintained in her backyard was populated with native New England plants. It was like a snapshot of the wider natural world around her. This world included some of the most beautiful landscapes and seascapes north of Boston, which a small group of us visited with Lydia, including the vast freshwater marshlands of the Ipswich River Wildlife Sanctuary in Topsfield, the mountain laurel stands of Maudsley State Park in Newburyport, and the grand wooden frame hotel standing out on a rock in the middle of the ocean at Star Island in the Isles of Shoals. It should be mentioned here that Lydia was a birthright UU who was clearly proud of her heritage. And I remember her encouraging me to continue a tradition, according to her, of regularly visiting the different UU churches in our region and thus connecting to our extended UU family. Lydia saw and experienced her wide-ranging artistic insight especially through her woodblock carvings, an art form that seemed to span two distinct cultural backgrounds, European and Japanese. Among the souvenirs I received from Lydia was a Japanese doll called a daruma. It consists of a round ball painted with a very defiant face. It represents a Buddhist monk who was so determined to achieve enlightenment that he sat for many years without moving, and eventually he lost both his arms and legs. A prominent feature of his face is his eyes, which are usually represented without pupils. When you choose your goal in life, you paint in one pupil, and when your goal is achieved, you paint in the other pupil. My own daruma, a gift from Lydia, sits in its own little alcove in my room. One pupil is painted in, and the other is waiting for fulfillment. I can hear Lydia saying, "What are you waiting for? Just follow your instincts."
Good morning. Excellent. How are you all doing today? Excellent. It's wonderful to be here on this gorgeous sunny day. My name is Doneeca Thurston, and I'm the executive director of the Lynn Museum / Lynn Arts in the heart of downtown Lynn. And this is Renee, Covulucci, president of the Boston Printmakers. We have a nice little presentation here for you this morning. Excellent. As part of our collection of over 10,000 artifacts, we hold objects, ledgers, and stories of the large, expansive Breed family that began with Alan Breed I, who came over to Lynn from England in 1630. Some of you may be more familiar with the Breed name, Breed's Pond at Lynn Woods, Breed Middle School, which is where I actually went to middle school, Breed Street, Breed's Place, Breed's Hill, which is more historically known as Bunker Hill, and the list goes on. Like many Breeds before them, Lydia and her mother Aborn were active lifetime members of the Lynn Historical Society and contributed to the organization. Having this full archive of Lydia's prints highlights another branch of the Breed family tree with visual depictions expressing the commitments of her generation. The Breed's family involvement was significant throughout the Lynn community and the Unitarian Universalist Church of Greater Lynn, where, as you know, Lydia was a fifth-generation member. In preparation for this exhibition, the Lynn Museum and volunteers invited various groups to view Breed's prints, including some of Nikki's students at North Shore Community College, to record their responses. And some of the members of your congregation also participated in this project as well. Throughout the exhibit, these words, thoughts, and reactions are shared to provide insight into this community legacy, Lydia Newhall Breed. The Lynn Museum Lynn Arts is thankful to Jan Breed for donating this full archive of prints by Lydia Breed. Funny enough, in September of 2020, one of our board members, Pam Skangus, had reached out to say, Jan Breed has this beautiful archive of work, would we be interested in accessioning it into the collection? Unfortunately, by December of 2020, we had voted to accession the collection, and then when did we open this exhibit? April 9th. April 9th, we were able to open the exhibit, and it's really just been a wonderful process and project, and we are so fortunate to have these works and to have Lydia remembered in her home of Lynn. We are excited to have Lydia's art, life, and stories join our collection, furthering our mission to collect, preserve, and promote Lynn's rich and diverse history, art, and culture. This exhibit will be up through mid-September, so we hope that you will join us. In fact, our next second Saturday program, where we're free and open to the public, is Saturday, June 11th. We will have a printmaker, Stephanie Stigliano, joining us, and so we invite the congregation to join us on that Saturday and experience the exhibit for yourself. And so I'm going to step back so you can see the slides behind me. But as part of this exhibit, as I mentioned, we have a number of objects tied to the Breed family, and so we were able to go through the collection and find materials related to Lydia's specific lineage within the Breed family. So we have here an image of a silhouette of Mr. and Mrs. James Edwin Breed and their daughter Persis Newhall. And then we also have another artifact related to Alan Breed. This is a beautiful chest. It's actually a liquor service, but it's a gorgeous piece of art. And then actually Aborn had donated a number of materials to the collection before she had passed. One of these is a Caledonian Club quilt. And we also have some images as part of a scrapbook that was shared with us, tied to the exhibit. And then we also have a Girl Scouts beret that we believe might have belonged to Lydia at some point, or Aborn herself, as part of the collection. This here on the left, as you can see, is a timeline. So this is Lydia's specific lineage within the Breed family. Funny enough, I've been doing my own sort of family history and come to find out Lydia and I are distant cousins. We are related through Samuel Breed, who is, I believe, the second or third generation after Alan Breed the first. But it was nice to sort of uncover this family history. And then this here is a lovely portrait of Lydia Aborn and her siblings at Thanksgiving in 1994. One of the prints that I feel most connected to, or I think I was most struck by when first reviewing Lydia's works, was this piece, Why Not Now? And I was fortunate enough, Renee was gracious enough to allow me to write a label for the exhibit, so I'll just read it here. This is one of the first prints I connected with, having been raised in a Methodist church. Many hymns from childhood come flooding back as I stand before this print. Others recognize We Shall Overcome lyrics made popular by Pete Seeger and other singers of the 1960s, such as Joan Baez, who sang the song at rallies, folk festivals, and concerts, and made it widely known. We'll Walk Hand in Hand is the second verse of the anthem, followed by We Shall Live in Peace, We Shall All Be Free, and We Are Not Afraid. Since its rise to prominence, the song and songs based on it have all been used in support of various causes worldwide. Many of us still wonder, almost 50 years later, why not now? And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Renee for the art analysis.
Hi, everybody. If I stand here, can you still see the artwork, or should I go over there? Where you're good. Okay. All right. So my name's Renee Covulucci. I'm president of the Boston Printmakers, and I'm going to just put Lydia's work into context in sort of big art history, but mostly Boston history, because she was part of a movement in the 1940s when she was in school. So Lydia Breed graduated from Massachusetts College of Art in 1947 with a diploma in drawing and painting, and then returned and received a graduate degree in fine arts in 1951. Most likely she was influenced by Lawrence Kupferman, who taught painting and printmaking, and that's a little portrait of him in the center of the screen. And that's one of his house portraits. He did house portraits in printmaking, and he used to have quite a following because he was such a good draftsman. He could draw really well. In art school, Lydia served as class officer, manager of the yearbook, and was awarded 2 scholarships. And in the Mass Art Archive, it said, these scholarships were by vote of the entire faculty and given primarily for merit and achievement in schoolwork, plus consideration for the students' contribution towards the welfare of the school. So service to the community and acknowledgement for and dedication to her artwork were already present at the beginning of Lydia's art journey. The images on the right, the top one is a print Lydia made when she was in college. It's dated 1946. And 1945 yearbook is something that Lydia worked on. And if you can see the slide, the lower right, Lydia's indicated by a little yellow pointer. And her classmates are all female because the men were at war. In 1947, Lydia was a founding member of the Boston Printmakers, and she exhibited actively with them until 1966. She attracted the attention of Arthur Heinzelman, the first keeper of prints at the Boston Public Library, who collected her work for the permanent collection. And as you can see, this image is depicting Lydia's ability to draw and describe, and she's doing it with a knife carving into wood, and she could really express herself exquisitely with this medium. So these are 2 works that Lydia probably saw when she was in art school. We still see them in art school. One image that is really associated to modernism, it really sets the time in place in art history, is Picasso's Guernica, which was his response to the bombing of a city during the Spanish Civil War. And then the one on the right, which you're probably not very familiar with, is a painting by Vasily Kandinsky. Kandinsky described his painting as visual music. with colors being like sounds. He painted to music, using color and line to express how the music made him feel. And this will come in handy a little later when we look into Lydia's work. So there was a movement going on in Boston. It started in the late 30s, but by the 40s it really took hold, and it was called the Boston Expressionists. And we were known as Boston Figurative Expressionism, meaning that a lot of other artists in New York and people responding to modernism went fully abstract, no representation in the picture. But Boston kind of stuck with that, and there's reasons for that. So this is a print of Lydia's professor, Kupferman, on the left, and one of Lydia's on the right. And these are examples of composite images, meaning that there's subjects in there, but you put them wherever you want. You can put one high and low, you can make your own design with them. I think Kupferman's looks a little bit like a postcard of New York City. And Lydia's is showing us all of the famous structures in Marblehead, Mass, rearranged to make a beautiful composition and framed by the sea and the sailboats. So Lydia's aesthetic was really personal and about her home and her surroundings. So the Boston Figurative Expressionism was a humanist philosophy, that is, a human-centered and rationalist or classically oriented philosophy, which found its sources primarily in German Expressionism. So the New York artists were following the French European mode of modernism, and Boston was looking at the Germans. Like the Germans, Boston Figurative Expressionists confronted the issues at the heart of Expressionist sensibility, which were personal and group identity in the modern world, the role of the artist as witness to violence, prejudice, and corruption in modern society, and the nature of the creative process and its formal and spatial implications. And that's from a book written by Judith Bookbinder called Boston Modern. So this fueled atmosphere in Boston in the 1940s suited a young Lydia Breed. She fit right into the Boston scene, and like many artists of her era, perpetuated this well-defined philosophy throughout her life. This print, Terra Intimina, is a clear example of this style with carving reminiscent of German Expressionism. So if somebody saw this, they would contextualize it as a German Expressionist print. Expressionism adds emotion, it adds energy, it adds like little twinkly sharpness, kind of comes to life on the page, especially when you use the little knives to create your image. In other instances, Lydia depicts injustice, humanity, and pain, sometimes overwhelmingly emotional, while embracing ideas of modern abstraction. So this print is two men on a train. You look out the window and you can see a plane, the ocean, and a woman standing at a railing. And very well, this could be an image Lydia saw, probably on the train riding from Boston to Lynn. That print was called Study in Brown. And this one, Ben, Look Unto the Hills, Lydia wrote on the original mounting of this print that Ben is of Thomas Wolfe's Look Homeward Angels. Like Catcher in the Rye, Look Homeward Angels is a coming-of-age story that follows the growth of a protagonist from childhood into adulthood, asking many hard questions along the way. And Lydia also made this print and titled it Catcher in the Rye. So Lydia connected to literature. Most people read Catcher in the Rye, they still do, and you know, kind of a common idea that runs through society. This print, Gethsemane, is a striking example of Expressionism, as Lydia visually represents pain by fracturing the picture plane and filling the fractured shards with the story of Christ's agony in the garden. And I tried to blow it up so that you could see some of the details that sit behind the cross. But if you come and see this print in person, it is like deeply emotional when you stand in front of this print. She really executed it well. So elegant composite images of places Lydia knew well were meant to conjure memories and feeling. In this print, Mother's Island, sometimes it's called Gotland Jewel of the Islands, is a print that I became obsessed with. This Gotland Island print was done in many variations. This is an example of it in color, a 3-color block. And her mother, Aborn, was from the Gotland Island area. Her family was from there. So I was like, well, what's Gotland Island? So I went on the travel websites and I got some images of Gotland Island, which we can see Lydia's depiction, again, rearranged so that it makes a composition that she enjoys. If you come up to this print with a microscope, you see a person catching a fish in the foreground, and it's this big. It's just amazing what she could do. And then I wanted to know, what's this Gotland Island? So it's described as a paradise island with distinctive wilderness and a 360-degree coastline with sandy beaches and sculptural sea stacks. So we can see why people were drawn to that and why Lydia liked the island. In Sweden, yes. Yeah. It's a destination for us, I think. So this group of work that I'm going to show you at the end here is what I call Lydia's signature style. I've never seen a printmaker make images in this way. Not necessarily the tools she uses, but the design, the composition. This one called Beethoven and Bruckner. Breed is depicting the sounds of tanglewood using shape, rhythm, and line to express how music makes the listeners feel. So instead of seeing way in the distance the conductor and the orchestra and the sound stage, Lydia is really taking the music into the air, into people's ears, and bringing it through the trees and bouncing all around, as if you're describing what you're listening to. This one, called Sentinels of Music, is a depiction of people entering Tanglewood through the wooded landscape, which to me looks like a cathedral. So I feel like she's making a cathedral to music, thinking of Tanglewood in that way. And the next one, Common Meeting, you're going to see the joyful sounds of friends meeting in the Boston Common. Again, there's subject matter there that we can read. We can see the State House in the upper right. We can see the Frog Pond. But Lydia's more focused on bringing us through this place with sound and joy and the expression of the two friends meeting in the Boston Common. So I want to thank Lydia for making these prints, because they've kept me busy through the pandemic and more. And I just love looking at them. I think most people do. You look at them, you see something else, you see something else. I'm glad they're going to be in the museum. And I think Jan Breed was very generous to make this donation and really add an awful lot to the Breed history at the museum, and very up to date too. So thank you, and we go on with the service.
Have any of you ever seen a fire? I've seen my share as a newspaper reporter and Red Cross volunteer. Fire seems to char everything it touches. It takes a home, a workplace, sometimes a church, and turns it into something dark and empty and diminished and sad. Lydia Breed saw a fire. In 1976, she was one of many church members who saw our grand old Universalist church on Nahant Street destroyed by flames. In the days that followed, she went through the fire site. She became a scavenger, salvaging everything she could. She transformed the salvaged pieces into the sculpture that you see here, a spire reaching toward the sky, an expression of hope. She created the symbols that you see above the door to our fellowship room as you enter church every Sunday. And I'd like to add, Lydia is one of the reasons that our church is the Church of Greater Lynn and not the Church of Swampscott. She fought passionately to maintain our connection to the city of Lynn, where our church was based for so many years. But for me, I like to remember the fact that she took destruction and breathed new life into it. Lydia was many things in her lifetime. That's the Lydia I like to recall today.
Many years ago, during an art class that Lydia was teaching at the Burrell Street Chapel in Swampscott, she remarked that making art was her form of meditation. After having the great pleasure of seeing her retrospective exhibit at the Lynn Museum, I feel confident in saying that making art was also a form of worship for Lydia. Her prints, paintings, and sculptures emanate a sense of wonder and awe for the earth, its landscapes, and its creatures, and for the human spirit. As we go forth, may we enter into that sense of wonder and awe and resolve to see our precious planet and one another with more discerning and appreciative eyes.
I think Lydia would have liked these words by Alla Gutnikova, a young Russian woman facing a prison sentence for inciting minors to protest the war in the Ukraine. Don't be afraid to ask yourselves and others what is good and what is bad. Repeat to yourselves and others, 2 + 2 = 4. Black is black, white is white. I am a person, strong and brave. Freedom is a process by which you develop the habit of being inaccessible to slavery. And let the people say, Amen.